Welcome to the Shalem Institute of Spiritual Formation. I'm Liz Ward. I'm currently serving as the director of the Spiritual Guidance Program. And I'm here today with Dana Greene, who is one of the foremost experts on Evelyn Underhill and has had a long history of in-depth study of Evelyn Underhill. We're here to talk about 3 of her books that she has worked on concerning Evelyn Underhill. And I have to say that Evelyn Underhill has been someone who has served as a spiritual mentor for me. She has written over 400 books and articles, and there is a depth and breadth to her understanding of the spiritual life that is always refreshing for me. So Dana, what led you to an interest in Evelyn Underhill? I know your first book was Evelyn Underhill, Modern Guide to the Ancient Quest for the Holy.
Yeah, well, this goes back actually to about 1982 when I established a connection with Shalem, and I also had a student who was in one of my seminars who wanted to do a comparative paper on the Spanish and Rhineland mystics, and I said to her, well, you need to use Evelyn Underhill's book, Mysticism, as a source for this. And so in working with this student on this paper, I got reintroduced to Underhill. I had actually read Underhill when I was in college, but I really wasn't able to grasp it at that point. And it was after that year, after that seminar with the student, that I had a sabbatical leave, and I decided to work on Underhill, and I did this particular book, which is an anthology of some of her very obscure writings, which were not very accessible to people. And actually, as I was hawking this book to a publisher, I got an invitation to write a biography of Underhill. There had been 2 previous biographies written quite a bit of time earlier, but I was absolutely stopped dead in my tracks. I didn't think I could write a biography. I didn't know how to write a biography. And after about a year, encouraged by some friends, I then took up the writing of this next book.
Evelyn Underhill, Artist of the Infinite Life. And that's a fascinating title. I'm wondering what led you to that title.
Well, it is a long story. Underhill was brought to God by beauty, really. She was pretty much of a deist in her youth, and God was fairly abstracted to her. And then she went to Italy, and she fell in love with the art and architecture and liturgical ritual of Italy. So she was someone who was brought to God through this sense of beauty. And I wrote this book, and I didn't have a title for it. And after I was finished, I went back and I read the manuscript again, and the title came to me very clearly. And it was in the manuscript itself. I mean, that's who I was defining, was an artist of the infinite life, the life. I didn't want to use the word eternal because that had a sense of afterlife. Underhill believed that all of life was really incarnational, and so I talked about her as the artist who painted in words this life that was infinite, available to us now, and eternal. So that's how I came to that title.
Well, and your third book on Evelyn Underhill, Fragments from an Inner Life, also has a very fascinating story behind it, as well as a fascinating understanding of Evelyn Underhill.
This book has an interesting genesis in that when I was doing the work for the biography, I I was using all of this archival material in King's College London. Underhill was a student for a while in what was called the ladies' department of King's College. I always think of lingerie when I say that. Anyway, her archives are there at King's College. And as I read these archival materials, it was very clear to me that she was a person who had great doubts, had great suffering in her life, had fears as well. And I felt very strongly that this needed to be brought out and made available to others, because you can read Underhill's many, many books and think that her life just proceeded in some straightforward, easy way, and that was not the case. The problem was that there were people alive, people who I had interviewed for the biography, who didn't want this material published, not just for any reason. They felt that they were really the protectors of her, and they were concerned that some might think negatively of their dear friend, and they were very devoted to her. I had another viewpoint, that this would humanize her. Thank heavens the head of the trust agreed with me, but he decided that we really needed to wait until these devoted friends were deceased, and so I waited, and then this book was brought out, and I don't think this was betraying their trust. It was bringing it rather to the modern mind, that to understand more deeply was in fact to strengthen the image of the person. And so that was the third book. We've gone on now, as you know, Liz, to found the Evelyn Underhill Association, which one can find if you just Google it. And we support people leading retreats, doing scholarly work on Underhill. So this is the 100th anniversary of the publication of her big fat first book, Mysticism. And so we're celebrating her in many, many different ways.
Thank you, Dana, very much. Thank you for this gift of these books. You really brought Evelyn Underhill into the modern consciousness in a way that is a gift for all of us, and we deeply appreciate the fact that you've lived with her so intimately for so long and shared that with us.
Thank you, Liz.
You.